Hello and welcome to Positive Thinking number 8. This is the Thinking Highways webinar. I have decided not to go with the webcast idea because webcast needs video, so this is actually now a webinar. So I've given up. If everyone wants to know why I'm using the word webinar, everybody else uses it. It's good enough for you. It's good enough for me. So welcome to Positive Thinking. My name is Kevin Boris. I'm the editor of Thinking Highways and the publishing director of H3B Media, who publishes Thinking Highways. During the course of the next hour, you'll hear some fascinating stuff about enforcement, and you'll hear 6 different voices, mine, and 5 more people who I shall introduce now. The person who's driving the whole thing, operating all the technology, is Gareth Hayward. Hello, Gareth.
Hello, and apologies when it goes wrong.
No, it won't go wrong. No, think positive.
I will do. I will do.
Do try. And it's not
Positive
Gareth's
thinking.
Gareth's natural state is not to think positively, but you have to because it's called positive thinking. It says there.
I have it in the middle of the screen in front of me. You're quite right.
Yeah, remind yourself that all the time. Gareth will be reading out questions and doing that kind of stuff, so that's a very important part. We also have the person who drives not the technology but drives the content of our webinars is Bob McQueen. Hello, Bob.
Oh, hi there. I'm hoping that we can move Gareth from negative thinking through neutral to positive thinking.
Yeah, neutral will be good. Let's go for that. Now,
Not too ambitious.
Gareth and I are both in South London. Bob, despite sounding like he's also next door, Bob is currently in Apopka, Florida, which is not that far from Orlando, for those of you that know Florida very well. So we're quite well sprung out today. I meant spread. I said sprung. I have no idea why I started with that. So our now 3 speakers. First of all, I'd like to introduce from Visionicks, Mr. Jeff Collins. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Kevin. Hello, everyone.
Jeff is joining us from a small box somewhere. So Jeff's actually on a phone connection. Do apologise if Jeff sounds slightly not as clear as everybody else. Jeff
Sounds like a big box, actually.
Oh, it's a big box. It's a large cardboard box on the side of the road. But Jeff is based not that far from the offices of H3B, which will make the next 2 speakers slightly more interesting. Not that they don't need to be. But second speaker from Census Traffic in Sweden, Magnus Sperlander. Hello, Magnus.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Kevin. How are you doing?
We're good. We're fine. We're doing very well. I'm almost done with my bits. I can then sit back and listen to you guys talking your expertness. So we've got one person. Well, that's why you're on. We've got 1 speaker in London. We have 1 speaker in Sweden. We also have 1 speaker in Melbourne, Australia. So welcome, Doody Cohen from Redflex. Hi, Doody.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for inviting me.
No problem. Now, that's a pretty good connection for 9,000 miles away. I'm quite pleased that. Doody, however, Doody has yesterday moved from his lovely home in Melbourne, and he's about to move to the UK. So, A, sorry about that. B, Doody is in transit. So thanks for taking your time out of moving house, moving your family across the world, and he's taken time out to spend an hour with us today. So thanks indeed for that. Now, all I need to do, everybody, thank you. 2 things. What we need to do is you will listen to the speakers. They'll give presentations, give their opinions on the enforcement sector. After that, halfway through the hour, you will then get your chance to ask questions of our speakers. So please do use the question box that you've got on your control panel. Very important that we get questions, otherwise we just ask each other questions. I think it's a bit samey. So we need your input. The second thing is, please don't ask the question, will I get the slides? Yes, you will get the slides. Everyone who logs on as an attendee will get the slides. You also get access to the recording of this, so you'll probably fast forward through this first 7 minutes. Anyway, so you do get the chance to have the slides, so please don't ask. That's always the first question. And every one of these 8, 7 one we've done before, they always say, do I get the slides? Yes, you get the slides. So, no more from me. I'll hand over to Bob and his talking points. Bob, please take it away.
Great, thank you very much, Kevin. I was trying to think how to summarize my perspective on enforcement, and I got it down to one thought, which is that the effectiveness of enforcement maybe depends on the probability of being caught and the consequences when you get caught. So I'm hoping we're going to hear today about ways in which we can increase the probability of being caught. A lot of people maybe view enforcement as negative, but the more I talk to people, the more I realize that most of these really sophisticated, intelligent transportation systems that we try to implement, really you don't get the results you expect unless you take enforcement into account, unless you actually have some way of making sure it gets applied. So we set up a few talking points. The speakers don't necessarily need to follow these, but just some food for thought. So the first talking point was what we see at the roadside is only the tip of the iceberg. So can we talk a little bit more about some of the steps that we don't see, some of the things that happen behind the scenes? Second one was the value and benefits that could be achieved through the use of technology for enforcement. It seems to me that here in the US we often don't use enough technology for enforcement, and we end up with a trooper at the roadside with a patrol car and a bag of donuts, and he's told to stand there and enforce things. So is there a better technology solution? And then important these days in the cost constraint value for money environment we're in, can enforcement systems only do enforcement, or can they be used to do other things within a shared infrastructure, shared environment? And then the next one might be a US perspective. Police and enforcement agencies are not prominently involved in ITS. I'm thinking specifically, we don't see a lot of senior police showing up at ITS America's annual meeting, for example. Is there a need for better outreach, or are the police guys actually, do they have their own forum, or are they meeting somewhere else? And then, are we doing enough to develop national and international standards for enforcement technology? I realize that's a question of market maturity, but that might be an interesting one. Then the public also often perceive enforcement as a negative activity. How do we go about marketing the value and benefits of good enforcement? I'd be interested to hear any speakers' comments on that. And then the business model, it seemed to me with the London congestion pricing program that they did a great job in matching the business model to the capabilities of the technology. That might be an important element in enforcement as well. And then, do we expect to see any policy implications? Very often, policy drives technology, but sometimes when the politicians see things that they didn't know could be done, they may change their minds and change the policies. What performance measures should be used to measure any improvement in enforcement? I'd be interested. I think we've got some slides coming up on that. And then what's coming down the pipeline? What new technology might appear that will make things even better? And then what challenges we've faced, and what advice would you give to an enforcement agency looking to apply technology to get better results? So that's the kind of frame. That's the topic area, if you like. And without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Jeff from Visionics and let him start this presentation. Over to you, Jeff.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a very quick introduction. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director for Visionics. And probably the thing we're most well known for is the average speed spectrum cameras, which have been operational since 1999. And what I was going to do is just, I've got a few slides to go over how the more than 10 years of experience, what we've learned through it, some of the good things, some of the bad things, and maybe where we go on from here. And I think I'll be addressing a few of the points that Bob came up with. If I could have the next slide. This shows the application of average speed enforcement in the UK has been pretty high. There have been more than 300 applications which have run since 1999, when the very first generation of the equipment came out. And it's covered in the UK every operational speed limit which we have, including 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 and 70 mile an hour limits. And then there's even development work going on at the moment for average speed with variable average speed limits. But this particular slide shows all of the parts of the UK that have used the newer generation, which is the networked, distributed average speed solution. So rather than just being one camera connected to another, it's a network of cameras that covers a larger area. So it just gives you an idea of the scope. It's not a new technology. It's being very widely used at the moment. If I could have the next slide. We've learned there are four main benefits and behaviours which come from the use of average speed in the way that it's operated in the UK. And I describe that as being safer, smoother, greener and fairer. And I think those are fairly self-explanatory, but I'll just go through and outline a little bit more what I mean. Because as I mentioned before, there have been more than 50 permanent installations of average speed cameras in the UK. And the reason they've been used, the overriding reason in every application has been to improve road safety. And it's true that increasingly it's being used for other applications, but the reduction of casualties, or as we measure it, the reduction in the killed or seriously injured, has always been the primary driver. And in the UK, typically it's a greater than a 70% reduction killed or seriously injured along a section of road where this technology is used. And another way of looking at that, on average, it's a £1.6 million sterling annual saving to the economy through casualty reduction at every site that's been used at, and that's year on year. And that is substantially better than a one-year rate of return at every single site it's ever been used at. So it's been a very effective tool. If I could have the next slide. I won't go through these in detail, but this indicates the number of the routes which have used the cameras for a significant period of time, and it compares 3 years before with 3 years after. And you'll notice the KSI reductions are all very impressive. The worst reduction is a 46% reduction, which is actually very significant in its own right. And we've had a little bit of fun in the UK with the anti-camera mob, who like to challenge these reductions and suggest it's all down to regression to the mean, and in fact we make roads more dangerous by putting this kit in. It's really quite hard to argue with numbers like that when you can see pretty clearly they do have a very significant impact. If I can have the next slide. The next behaviour and benefit that we noticed after the casualty reduction was that traffic actually flows better. You have a smoother flow of traffic, rather like the concept behind the managed motorway, where you can fit more traffic along the road by managing dynamically the vehicle speed. It's a similar phenomena with average speed, because things tend to drive along and flow better. So if you have a uniform speed, the headways are pretty much the same. You don't get braking, you don't get collisions. And the reason you don't get the casualties is the same as the reason you don't have the collisions. It's because it's flowing better. So you're making greater efficiencies and better use of the flow. If we could have the next slide. Hand in hand with smoother traffic flow, environmentally, it's a better situation as well. You, as a driver, will burn less fuel. You'll put fewer emissions out as well. It'll actually be quieter for people in the area if everything's driving at the same rate. And you'll even be wearing the road out less if you're not accelerating and braking. And it's a tertiary benefit, but one that increasingly is becoming important. Not only are you making it safer, not only is it flowing better, but environmentally it's better as well. If we could have the next slide, please. And finally, and possibly the most contentious, but I think this is particularly important, and it's the way it's certainly managed in the UK, average speed control is very much perceived to be fairer. And by that, I mean drivers think if enforcement is going to be used, this is a fairer way to do it, because you won't suddenly be caught for a momentary lapse of judgment or creeping above the limit. But going on to one of the thinking points as well, there is the threat of capture. The technology can do it, the ticket can be issued, and the penalties can be high, but it is usually managed in such a way that it is a threat. It's more of a Russian roulette approach rather than trying to enforce everybody. And I'm keen that it maintains this way, because if even a 1% of a very large traffic flow is captured each day, then pretty soon you're going to be penalising a large proportion of the population. And so a typical application of our equipment, only 1 in 10,000 journeys are actually ticketed, yet you get all of the benefit, which I think is very important in bringing things together. If I can have the next slide. I think we jumped one there, actually. Can we just go back? There we go. No, we didn't jump one. Sorry, I apologise for that. If we can go on again. Oh, sorry. This is a bit of data that gives my opinion on another reason why it actually works. This is data taken before and after on a route which had average speed control over 50 kilometers. And what we're looking at is the change in the standard deviation of vehicle speed at different times of day, at the same time of year, before the equipment went in and after. And the standard deviation of speed is really a measure of the variability of driver's speed, so the difference between the quickest and the slowest drivers, how much of a range there is. And what you'll notice is that the red data is lower than the blue data. There is less variability once people know they're being monitored. And that very much leads into the reason that the flow is better and why there are fewer collisions as well. If we could have the next one, please. A little more data from average speed sites. This is the speed distribution curve for 20 mile an hour, 30 mile an hour, 40 mile an hour, and 50 mile an hour sites which use average speed control. And hopefully you can see from the chart it's a very tight distribution. It's a normal distribution. The peak is just below the posted speed limit, and that's probably because most people think the speedo is reading the exact limit when in fact it's overreading a little bit. And you'll notice that the profile is identical regardless of the actual speed limit. So it's the behaviour is being controlled very well over a length of road to meet the required speed limit, because people know in the UK it's very much overt enforcement. The cameras are clear and obvious. We could have the next one, please. And when I look at a project here, the design considerations I always talk to a client about are very much about what you're trying to achieve. It's not just a matter of putting technology out and hoping it does the job. You design the solution for the road, which is the way to get the most out of it. So how long is it operating? Is it 24 hours a day, or do you only have the issue at a certain time? You should address the problem rather than have the environment work around the technology that you have. Communications are very important as well. How do you get data to and from the roadside? And particularly in remote locations, power. It is impractical to have something operating continually if there isn't a power supply which can be used as and when you need it. Another key thing, certainly in the UK, where we have overt enforcement, is the visual appearance of the system. Because you can only, I believe you can only change behaviour if people know there is a reason for them to change their behaviour and there is the threat of enforcement. And where you have a road with a casualty problem, people need to be aware there is an issue on that road, rather than it's easier to adapt their behaviour there than to adapt their behaviour absolutely everywhere. So the visual appearance of it, what does it look like? How many signs have you put out? Which direction the cameras are pointing? And are you looking to enforce everybody, or just occasionally at certain times or at certain lengths? And do you want to control behaviour on everybody? If we could have the next slide, please. So just pulling that all together, certainly based on my experience and the 300 odd projects that we've operated in the UK with this approach, it really does work. And you can cover a two-dimensional part of ground rather than just one spot or a one-dimensional section of area. It really does change driver behaviour, and hopefully that's what you've seen from the profile data. What you are doing is you're not changing the vehicle or the road, you're changing the way people think, and it gives you the positive outcomes. And it's not only casualty reduction, it does bring together the casualty reduction along with congestion and environmental improvements as well. But I do think you have to be careful in how you design and operate such a solution. It needs to be used appropriately. And I strongly believe that enforcement should be about improving things and getting benefits rather than purely catching people and possibly building up a level of resentment, not only against the technology, but against the whole reason that you're trying to make a road better. And in my experience, the public are only just beginning to trust enforcement again. It's wouldn't say it's a love-hate relationship, it's a tolerate-hate relationship. And we've moved from hatred back to toleration, and I think it's really important to manage that appropriately. So my final point is a clarity of purpose whenever you're using an enforcement system is key, because then people will understand what you're trying to do. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jeff. That was a great presentation. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Is SPECS a UK Department of Transport term? What does SPECS actually mean?
It's despite what you might read in the press, because they've always tried to work out what it means. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's just a name. It's just sort of a product name, but it's become pretty much synonymous with average speed in this part of the world. Oh,
okay. Just a very appropriate term for a camera-based system. You have to put some specs on it, huh?
Well, it's true, yeah.
And the key safety, I'm assuming KSI are key safety indicators. Can you tell us maybe just...
injured.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's just a combination of... Go ahead.
It's a combination of the fatality and then a serious injury, and there's a definition for a serious injury. It's if you have to spend a certain amount of time in hospital. So it's the serious problems, and then you have a lower grade, which is a personal injury, where you have an injury but it's not a serious injury.
And the payback period is less than a year?
On the every permanent site we've had in the UK, yeah, the payback is anything between 3 months and 9 months typically, because it's only put on roads where there's been a bad casualty history. It's not just used on any road or just a new road.
Yeah. Excellent. Good. I remember years ago talking to some researchers who were looking at something along the highway called acceleration noise, which is the some measure of how erratic the traffic is, and their view then was that if you could smooth out the traffic, it reduces driver stress and reduces the probability of accidents. It looks like you've got some positive data to confirm that there.
Well, that's true, but don't forget, in every vehicle there is in many cases, an intelligent person driving,
yeah.
and they each have different drivers. So I know from our experience that if we have a gentleman of certain political tendencies of a certain age, he gets really angry by the fact that the state are trying to control what he does because he's a bloody good driver. And he actually perceives it's more dangerous because he's getting irate, but he is only one in 50,000 people. So it doesn't work for everybody, but generally, yes, it does.
Yeah, I've heard that stated as the most dangerous component in the vehicle is the nut behind the wheel.
Yeah, that's true.
Wonderful. Well, let's move on to one more question, Jeff. Visionics, do you guys supply the total system or just the cameras?
We do the total system, so all of the roadside infrastructure and the back office part as well.
Wonderful. Great. Thanks very much, Jeff. Magnus, I got a question before you start. Is Sensis and Sensis Traffic AB in any way related to Sensis Inc. over here in the US?
We've got a very friendly conversation, and I wouldn't say a cooperation with Sensis Networks in the US, but we still are on very good speaking terms with them. We're not linked to them formally.
Okay, great. Okay, over to you, Magnus. I won't interrupt you anymore.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, you have to bear with some Swinglish here. I guess I'm the only non-native English-speaking guy online. But
well, Kevin thinks I don't speak English either, Magnus, so you're okay.
Okay, thanks for inviting me. Let's look through the slides I've prepared here for now. My name is Magnus Ferlander. I'm heading marketing and sales activities here at Sensis Traffic in Sweden. So let's look at slide number 2. We're a small actor in the business, even though we've been around for more than 30 years now, and our trade includes enforcement systems for speed and red light mainly, but also, which might not be so visible at all times, because customer clientele is even smaller than in the enforcement business. We surveil power lines for electric trains around the world as well for damages in the pantograph structures on the roof of the trains. Our customers are, I guess we share that a lot with the other gentlemen around the table or on the conversation, police and transport authorities and agencies around the globe. We consider ourselves the market leader in the Nordic countries and as well as in the Middle East. Excuse me. We think of ourselves as a technology leader in the field of technical performance, in innovation, and particularly in those systems who really require extraordinarily high legal integrity and security requirements. We're listed, and we're headquartered here in Jönköping, Sweden. Next slide, please. So here's a brief global view at a glance of where we operate, where we got our main focus, and you will see that the Nordic countries are very red in the sense that there we got the majority of our systems installed. At the same time, we do have a quite vast installed base in the Gulf states as well, with a focus on the UAE and Dubai. You would notice on the east coast, the US, that there's a quite significant red dot as well. I'll get back to that very soon. Next slide, please. So, why the US? Well, we're very, very proud to. We were very, very proud to announce in the early days of this year that our exclusive distributor, Sensors America, got hold of a very nice piece in Washington, D.C. And reason being that we beat our competition on technology, which basically meant that all existing or new establishments in Washington D.C. for red light enforcement and speed enforcement will be replaced with made in Sweden equipment, which is something we're very, very proud of. This, of course, is a contract which runs over many years, or a couple of years at least. So by now we only have approximately, I'd say, some 50 systems in operation in DC. Next slide, please. And in another part of the world, in Oman, we succeeded approximately roughly a year ago to secure an order together with the Royal Omani Police, where we now until today have commissioned every one of our all the systems we were contracted with, and we were one out of three, a total of 3 suppliers in front of the ROP. And we get extremely or extraordinarily positive feedback from police, and we look forward to continue the cooperation in Oman in days and years to come. Next slide, please. And this sort of is an opening slide, and don't worry, I don't have too many of them. It's a total of 11 of them, but I think it's. I just want to hook up to what Jeff spoke about before, in terms of really considering on the procuring side, what do we want to achieve? What are our real and true objectives in when we deploy enforcement systems, both, as you alluded to as well, in terms of achieving a state of public acceptance instead of hatred, and instead of perhaps maximizing number of penalizations, to really provide a system together with the stakeholders, which really makes a difference in terms of saving lives, because at the end of the day, that's perhaps the one or one of the top three at least KPIs we can be measured upon. How do we succeed in incentivizing road users to really slow down or stay by the speed limits, or respect red light signals? This is a key factor where we really can be successful together with our customers. And I'd like just to mention on that note, Census cooperation with the Swedish National Roads Administration. Perhaps you have come across the expression Vision Zero, which was coined, let's say, some 20 years ago in NRA in here in Sweden, whereby they really went back on a policy making level as well as on a other stakeholder level, and prepared, did their homework, not only in terms of enforcement systems, but also regarding other measures which had to be taken in the traffic environment in order to systematically break a spiral of increasing speeds, increasing overspeeding, and ultimately the death toll on our roads, and as well as, of course, as you alluded to as well, Jeff, the seriously injured, the amount of seriously injured persons as well. I think that we are a very proud contributor in the Vision Zero initiative, having supplied until last year approximately 1150 enforcement systems, speed enforcement systems, or speed safety systems as we'd like to call them. Again, together, Census together with the stakeholders and with the NRA have really succeeded in the communication across to road users to and ultimately achieved an extremely high level of public acceptance in media, in the everyday conversation between you and me on the street, or as road users, and which I think is a really true success factor, more or less wherever you are. The good news to us is that this scheme is expected to be expanded now. Sorry for a second. My computer went into sleeping mode now. I'm back again. And it's absolutely clearly declared by the Roads Administration that yes, we view the speed enforcement systems, the so-called ATK, Automatic Traffic Control System, as a vital component in years to come. And can I ask for the next slide, please? And to that end, we approximately 2 months ago, we were given the award for the replacement of existing systems, in order to ultimately, if the good forces are with us, to expand the system as well over a significant number of years. I think that the factors we mentioned before, the way the systems are operable here in our country, systems are operable 24/7 in terms of measuring average speeds of every vehicle, and they are dynamically managed in order to be active from let's say from a camera point of view in an adaptive manner. And I think that also ties in with what you mentioned, Jeff, how to increase and how to obtain public acceptance. We are not here to, neither we as a supplier on the supplier side nor the roads administration are here to impose yet another piece of tax or a penalization system. We're here to incentivize you and me as drivers to try and abide with the rules, which I think, even as a driver, is something very, very positive. So let's move on to the next slide. Now, this is a little bit of the evolution which we've been through as a company over the past, let's say, at least 20 years, where we have always put a very, very high, held the flag very high regarding the legal security aspects of the enforcement systems. You may or may not be aware that we are required here to provide sufficient evidence in order to identify the driver, or the via face recognition, and that we did already 10-15 years ago. But what we do these days is that we've optimized our own custom tracking radar in order to really enable perhaps it's Swinglish, but operational excellence by adding new features, for instance, extraordinarily high precision lane discrimination, vehicle class identification, etc., which as a secondary function allows for new applications of similar technology. For instance, prohibited lane detection, etc., which I know a lot of our friends in business also do, of course. So I'd like to finish off with the next two or three slides, perhaps, with just to give you an example of what might happen in the middle of the night in January at our latitude.
Hey, Magnus, can I ask you to wrap up in a couple of minutes so we get time for Didi as well?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So this is an example of a 101 kilometers an hour test enforcement, and if you click the next or go to the next slide, you will see one of my colleagues along with a test page what you could find out from the enforcement images that Census provides right now. So next and final, and it's only a summary of what we spoke about, what I've spoken about before. I'm very happy to get the chance to speak to you, and I look forward to have one or two questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Magnus. I think what we'll do is we'll hold the questions to the end and move on with Didi's presentation. Didi, are you there?
Yeah, still here.
Yeah, Dudi,
Okay.
if you just bear with me, Dudi, whilst I come out of this slideshow and open up your one.
So you are not the only non-English speaker in this panel. I hope that you will hear me well. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. It's nearly 11 p.m. now at night.
Oh.
Thank you for inviting me, Kevin and Garrett. I'm with FedEx for the 7 years. I was mainly dealing with the U.S. market with our sister company in the U.S. And today I wanted to get out of the box a little bit and talk about something it's very strong in the U.S. It's still not a product in Europe or the UK, and this is what we call Student Guardian, Redflex Student Guardian. And this project I was heavily involved in the design, requirements, and delivery of this project, and I'm very proud of this. You know, we are being criticized left, right, and center, that we are a money generation industry, and talking to my family, talking to my friends, and everybody said, "Oh, you guys and just after the money." And this project is, we do save lives. Just to give you a bit of statistic, every 30 seconds somebody dying from a car accident. So we are 45 minutes into the presentation. You can probably calculate how many people died since we are speaking. So 40 kids are dying every year in the U.S. from a school drop-off or pick-up. This is a big number, and hundreds are getting injured. Myself, I have 4 kids, and my oldest now is started to walk to school by himself. And I'm really scared. And this is designing and delivering this system made me really proud of what Redflex is doing and how we taking care of our kids and the next generation. So we move to the next slide. So I apologize for the crowd. I prepared slides on the system itself. I understand it only have 6 minutes, so I didn't include all the company statistic and company information. So I'll dive into the product itself. So Student Guardian, we have launched this product early 2012, or we started even the end of 2011. And basically this system installed on a bus, okay, on a school bus. Probably everybody familiar with the American yellow buses and probably from the movies. So basically we are safeguarding our children, we are safeguarding and we have a photo enforcement on bus. So in the US, vehicle, or actually, can you please go to the next slide? Garrett? Okay. So the Student Guardian system is a fully automated photo enforcement solution installed on the bus. It's preventing the drivers that illegally pass the school bus while the arm is open. So basically, when the arm is open, or the vehicle is not allowed, any vehicle is not allowed to cross or overtake the bus either from either direction. So the kids have a clear path to go to cross the road. So every year, as you can see, there's 26 million million children nationwide who rely on public transportation. And if you go to the next slide, it's going to be a bit clearer to people how the system works. Okay, so so you can see the bus in here, and we basically have a system that mounted on the side of the bus, and we have 3 cameras that looking at the scene and the plate shots. So the wider angle look at the scene, and the 2 narrow angle are more to detect the plate. So we have all computer, everything inside the bus. It's a hands-free very early generation system. The bus driver had to enable, disenable, doing something to the system in order, or press, take an image if a vehicle passes. This one is fully automated, plug and play. The driver doesn't need to do anything. There is a detection, red flags detection algorithm that detects any vehicle that crosses into the non-crossing zone. And if a vehicle crosses into this zone, we create an incident file, download this to the back office, and process it. So basically, we all talk about what do we want to achieve from photo enforcement. So casualty reduction, change in driver behaviors, and basically keep our kids free. It is important to the community. What we notice is that once we have installed those cameras in a school zone, the drivers seems to be more accountable. They're aware that there are cameras on the bus. They have changed their behavior. People are aware. There is a community awareness, what we call it. So people see there are cameras on the bus, so they also changing behaviors in not just in driving, in taking care of all aspects of our kids' safety. And just give you a bit of numbers, you don't need to install a camera on every bus. Probably around 10 to 20% would be enough to change the driver behavior. Would be enough to make the reduce those numbers of kids that are involved in an accident. And if we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so basically we at Redflex, we provide the whole solution. We provide the hardware on the bus. There is a box that's installed inside the bus. There is a computer, obviously, and the cameras on the side that connect into the computer. There are any other aspect of the enforcement type, and that we are talking about, is it providing also information to the bus fleet about the driver, the speed, the timing. It's obviously, we provide a lot of statistics to the bus company that they are really happy with, and on top of it, they get the enforcement as well. So we have a multi cameras, multi viewpoints that monitor the system constantly, automatically detect the violation, and pack it into a incident and send to the back office. At the back office that we have in Phoenix, Arizona, we have one in the East Coast as well. We do process those incidents and print those violations and send by mail. And the question is, and forgive me for that, I'm new into Europe market. I'm just entering the European market, and I'm just thinking about if this solution can be migrated into Europe in some variation. I guess we need to find out in the next future. And if we go to the next slide, so this one is the second generation, which we have just only one box and 3 cameras within one box. The computer actually installed internally, not even next to the driver, so a driver doesn't need to do anything. And again, this is something that everybody that I talk about on this project is really happy, really positive. We in Redflex get a lot of negative response in the US market. A lot of people think that they shouldn't be booked for the violation that they're doing. And talking to many people about this project, I haven't had any negative response on this one. So as I mentioned, we can see a reduction in violation when we started program. And there's another slide, please. Okay, and this is from another aspect. And just to let you know that we at Reflex, we have signed a contract with Blue Buses in the US that are responsible for, I think, 30 or 40% of the buses manufactured in the US. So we are happily join forces together in order to provide this photo enforcement on the bus. We are in Reflex. We have 2,500 systems in the US, the US market. This is our obviously main market. We are very strong in Saudi, in the Middle East as well. Saudi, Malaysia, if Malaysia can be considered the Middle East as well, and other places in the Middle East. Australia is one of our strong markets as well, and we are just in Europe. We have Ireland and UK coming as we speak. Again, I will be more than happy to talk with each one of you, discuss this Student Guardian opportunity or this Student Guardian product, and give you more details about it. I prepared a video for that, and then I was told by our US colleagues that due to privacy, we are not allowed to show you any video, so I apologize for that. I want to talk about another topic that is on in the slides, and one of the the points that you talk about, how can we improve enforcement? And this is a very good point that you raised in the initial slide. And in many tenders that you see out there, you see the criteria where they're going to judge the selected vendor. So you can see experience, you can see price, you can see performance, and how do we improve the enforcement if we judge more, and you can see that the price usually gets a lot of big share of it, which is under 60%, around 60 or 50%. However, we don't pay enough attention to the detection part of the system, in my opinion. And if we look at detection versus price, this is a very good graph to put into it and decide whether a system that detects 15% or 20% or 30% more, what is the price that we were willing to give or to pay for this system. And again, the price is very important, but I think the performance of the system is much more important than the price. And if we all drive the quality, okay, and that drive the quality up and value the quality and value the system that have a better performance, I think we will be able to improve the enforcement. And I believe this is it for me, and thank you for inviting me again, guys, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much, Dudi. I actually have a question for the whole panel. I was thinking mainly of Magnus, but I think it might be applicable. But as you guys have got experience in different parts of the world, does attitudes towards safety change from one part of the world to the other, or is it pretty consistent?
Well, if Magnus try and give a slight component to this, I think that the main objectives differ around the globe. I think why you want to implement systems of this kind. I think as of our experience, we see sort of 180 80 degrees difference between, for instance, the main objectives as perhaps as not as how they are marketed and sold, but how they are operated. In certain markets, revenues, the profit out of the system means everything. If you dig 1 or 2 levels down, in other markets, the pure, let's call it the pure traffic safety aspects are the governing or the chief objectives through the entire set of ranks. But indeed, the short version of an answer to you is yes, there is a big difference as far as our understanding and experience.
Yeah, I've often wondered if public agencies consider red light and speed enforcement to be addressing a safety objective or a revenue generation objective.
Yeah, I think there are both sides everywhere, perhaps, but.
And then, go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to add to that as well. It definitely changes from region to region because it changes over time. I'm sure you'll remember 40 years ago you were a bit of a lad if you drove. Sorry, if you were drink driving, it's considered to be something that was a bit cheeky. Certainly in the UK, and that has definitely changed. So it's not just geographic. It's where society view these things, and it dynamically changes depending on what the drivers are.
Right. Yeah. Excellent.
Right.
Thanks a lot, guys. I'm going to hand over to Kevin next. I think we're at the end of our time.
We are. We're not far off. We have a question though for Magnus. Gareth, do you want to ask the question?
It's from Jim Kennedy, and it's quite a long question, so bear with me. Was the equipment shown on the technology evolution page still image cameras, radar devices, LiDAR? That was for Magnus, and then there's a follow-up question which is for everyone. I'm not sure we'll have time for this, but is anyone using a radar or LiDAR device in their speed violation systems? And there is another question for Doody, but let's go with those two first, and if we have time, we'll ask one for Doody as well.
Yeah, Magnus here again. As far as if I understood the question correct, Sensys, we work only with the multi-tracking radar type of the device for tracking, detecting, tracking, and ultimately, obviously, trigger the camera device.
Okay. The follow-up part to the question which was for everyone, is anyone using a radar or LiDAR device in their speed violation systems?
Yes, Sensys uses the radar device in everyone in each enforcement system, including those for red light application.
Okay.
For me, on the average speed, radar is not used because you don't really need the radar to measure your average speed over a long section of road.
Okay.
Yeah, good answer. So we've got one more question for Doody. Is that right?
Yeah, we do have these all came from Jim, so this is the last part of the question. This one was for Doody.
Thanks,
it's of the 2,500 systems in the US. How many are speed? How many are red light? And how many are school bus or others?
Doody? Is Doody still there, or has Doody gone? Maybe Doody's moved.
Maybe
he's moved already.
I think he's gone out to count them.
I would guess that Judy has got a pretty good gut feeling about the distribution between them. If Magnus would make a guess, I'd say that's slight.
Doody.
Just
Did you hear that question, or did your connection cut off?
yeah.
He's still there. Doody joins us from Thursday.
Okay, it's a good question. Just before that, I would like just to answer the question before. We in Redflex have 3 types of radars. We do a red light. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Just keep talking. We can still hear you. I know he's gone. Well, that was so tantalising. We're so close to a really interesting answer.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So sorry, guys. So just quickly, the second question is that yes, in Redflex we do have 3 types of radars. We use it for red light. We use it for speed vents, like in vehicle or on a tripod, or we use it for a fixed site. So we have all the types of radar, fixed, mobile, and tripod, and also a red light. We use it for also other applications that require tracking as well. In regards to the second questions, if I remember correctly, how many red lights and how many speed?
Yeah, that's right, Dudy.
The U.S. market is so the U.S. market is mainly dominated by red light, and I would say it's probably 70-30 or 60 or 1/3, 2/3 towards red light. In regards to student guardian systems, we do have around 200 systems, between 150 to 200, I can't remember exactly. And we have many other systems like Wally Motion, Buslen, and ANPR, obviously, and I probably forgot 1 or 2.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Good answer. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
We're about to be wound down because we only allowed extra 5 minutes on our hour, and then the people from Citrix come in and turn us off. So
Kevin, if I could just intervene, we do have one more question that's come in, but it's quite a long question, which we probably I wouldn't have time to read, let alone get an answer to. So it's from Peter Delecki. So what I can maybe do is put that to the individual panelists and see if we can get some answers back, and I'll send that out individually, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Okay.
So that's how we do that anyway. So if you do any questions that we've got that we've not got time for, we'll put them to the panelists, and the panelists can answer them via email to you, the person who's asked it. So I'm afraid that is all we've got time for. So Dudy, thanks very much indeed, and good luck with your move. Jeff, thanks very much indeed for joining us from that cardboard box. And Magnus, thank you for your time as well. Excellent stuff. So from Bob and Gareth and myself, thank you very much indeed. Then we're taking a bit of a summer break of our regular webinars, almost went back to webinars. We do have another one first week of August with James Poll from US DOT, from the ITS JPO, which should be very, very interesting indeed. Haven't got a date exactly, we're just working on that. We'll let everybody know. But we are taking a break until Wednesday the 5th of September, sorry, Thursday the 5th of September, my apologies. Thursday the 5th of September, when the next webinar will be about social networking in ITS. We're joined by Andy Palanasamy from US DOT, and we've also got Eilet Galzer from University in Israel, and Susan Grant-Muller from University of Leeds in the UK. So, thank you for joining us. Please join us again, and if you're living in the UK, we haven't got a summer. If you're living outside the UK, have a good summer, and thanks for your attention. Cheers, thanks.